Hey friends, how are you? Okay, so we're starting the Rhythm of Further series, and this is the January video. So it's going to be a lot less formal and a lot more intimate than we've been doing on Patreon for years. You know, I know all of you really well, so that's exciting. And you will all get to know each other very well. So if you go to the Rhythm of Further page and log in, I have all of the call links and who's in each call listed. So you'll know what call group time you're in. I think you already know that. And then the link that is listed, you will use the same link every time. I won't be emailing you as much as I did on Patreon. I'm not going to be doing call reminders. So put it in your calendars. And you're going to get to know everybody. And it's really the most important part of this Rhythm Further series is really you showing up on the calls. Now, everybody here has pretty much found their voice, but everything I'll be asking you to explore and do, it's not that you're not doing it already. We're just going to take it up a notch, which is really about going into a new layer of depth. So most of this stuff, I don't want to hear your mind go, I already did this. We already did this. Of course we did. Of course you've already done this. Of course, da 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 da. I just don't want to play with your mind. So it's like there's always another layer to access. Katumi saying, give an example. We've never heard that before. I've been doing this 30 days of yoga before I go to bed, just to regulate my nervous system. And she has a mantra for each yoga class. And last night's mantra, this is my example of you can always take things further. Last night's mantra was, I deserve good things in my life. And, you know, the human who's realized, whoa, you know, the human part of us that thinks it's realized, we all have one. We all have that facet of ourselves. It went, well, of course I deserve good things, right? But it's like, as I went through the yoga practice in the evening, I was experiencing other lifetimes, which we call energetic imprints here. Other energetic imprints of myself didn't know they deserved good things in the reality in which they live. So that's an example of being able to take whatever I bring up, you can always take it to a new depth. We don't have a box to check, right? If we did, we've already checked every box. So you find the new layer, right? Even if it's a hokey yoga class that says, I deserve good things in my life. As I was moving through that yoga practice, I could really feel parts and pieces of myself and other realities going, oh, wait a minute. Good things can happen to me. Those lifetimes, those energetic imprints, they, even if they happened in a linear past, they, you know, especially Atlantean lifetimes, that lifetime experience is not written in stone, right? These energetic imprints of ourselves are malleable, fluid. They have a plasticity, a flexibility of outcome, right? So our first passageway to further is softness. And softness can't be felt if you say, I already did that, right? So we're going to get rid of it. A group of you, 6 of you are coming to this house in Mexico. The weather is perfect. The beach is nice. The weather is perfect. I don't even have the fan on. I don't even have the air condition on. This morning when I was driving to go surf, I had the heater on in my car. So it's not too hot. It's absolutely stunning. And you guys are about to be here, and we're going to go through each of the passageways all in 1 week with Kuthumi. But what he wants to do, this is Kuthumi. Have you ever heard of a swear jar? A swear jar. So if you cuss, fuck, shit, damn. Katsumi's cracking me up. He's just sitting there just spitting out cuss words. If you cuss, you have to put $1 in the jar, right? It's a swear jar. We're not going to have a swear jar. Don't worry. You can swear as much as you want, Charmaine. You can say fuck as many times as you want, Charmaine. I love you. But we're going to have a belief swear jar, right? And one of those beliefs is, I have already done this, right? I've already done this and there's nothing more to explore, right? So the belief swear jar would be, you have to write down the belief that you told yourself, write it down, crumble up that piece of paper and throw it in the jar. So we're going to do that when we're here in Mexico, but you can also do that at your house, Kuthumi says. As soon as a belief comes up, I've already done that. Then you write it down and you put it in the belief swear jar. So funny. Okay, so our first passageway to further, and we're really opening up the passageways. And if you guys don't remember, Kuthumi saying it's the 4th P: potentials, possibilities, probabilities. Number 4, passageways. So what we're doing here is we're opening up passageways into deeper layers of our beingness, deeper layers of our true creator nature, right? And as you open up the portals, passageways, doorways into the caverns of your beingness, you do it for yourself first. And it also opens up, helps support the opening up of the doorway, heaven's cross, whatever you want to call it, passageways to all of creation, because all of creation is accessed through, I think you all know this, but I'm just trying to set the base layer here. All of creation is accessed through the inner caverns of your beingness. So this is like navigating the void, right? Taken to the next level. If you haven't taken the Navigating the Void course, Aaliyah's working on making it nice, and it'll be available to all of you. Speaking of which, if you're in the Rhythm of Further and you're logged in, you should have access to our video page. So that's where I'll be putting like the video database. It has a few things from Patreon as well. All of you but one were in Patreon. Julie, you weren't in Patreon, but you have caught up. I've sent her everything and she's taken the light body sessions and everything else. So we're all kind of on the same page. I had people begging me to come into the Rhythm of Further, and they hadn't done everything else, and I didn't know them that well. And I just really got the sense that we can't go further if we're constantly having to deal with people's unworthiness issues. We can't go further if they don't understand the we go, which I'm editing the book with Kuthumi, and Miss Sarah is going to go over everything, and Charmaine and Julianne and Guillaume and everybody's helping. But as I was going through the Era of the Maga series, putting it in book form, we spent the entire first 6 months in the Era of the Maga series getting from ego to we go, and really understanding the dynamics of the changing role of the ego or the human, the changing role of the human, and the changing role of the soul in this Magus experience that we're having. So going through the book, I was like, wow, we really dove deep into that. So all these people who are begging to come in here and join us, I told them, no, I don't need the money. I don't need the headache. I am just here for you all. And I think there's 30 of you, which is plenty. And I'm really, really excited not to have to work with people doing the holding the sword of identity, which we talk about in the second half of the Era of the Magus series. And we covered fully in the Summer of Softness series, which is free on the website. I just can't deal with the unworthiness identity sword, pitchfork crap. The rest of my life is too short for me to really do that. It's not my job anymore. And so we're really going to be, you guys are the cream of the crop, the people who have done the work, right? Allowing is work. It's a effortless effort. It's not like, oh, I don't know. I'm just allowing, I don't need to do anything. Right? There has to be an impetus to act. All right, so setting the baseline of getting going in the Rhythm of Further series. First of all, we really need to be in the parasympathetic nervous system. That means the rest and digest, the relax. None of these explorations of the passageways can occur if you're in a dysregulated nervous system. If you're in that fight or flight or fawn response, right? And that electric feeling, it's going to happen. I make a concerted effort. I don't care. I'm just going to say it. I don't care if it's wrong or bad in Crimson Circle Land. I make an effort every day to make sure my nervous system is regulated. You cannot explore the caverns of your beingness with a dysregulated nervous system. How do I regulate my nervous system? The easiest one, breath, meditation, light stretches, yoga, walking, cooking, swimming, playing with my dog. Maybe yours is gardening, watching a funny movie. So we really need to have a regulated, and I don't mean managed regulated, but regulated in the sense that we're aware of what our nervous system is doing. If you start trying to explore these passageways and open up to deeper caverns of your beingness, and you can't bring yourself back into that parasympathetic nervous system, it's going to create a dragon experience, right? So what do we do when our nervous system is dysregulated? We become aware of it, right? This is really, really important, right? Because as we explore these deep caverns of our beingness, we're going to be uncomfortable. We're going to meet parts and pieces of ourselves we haven't met before, and not all of them will be really nice, neat, and pretty. You will feel an emotion, a human emotion that is charged energy. You're not unenlightened because you experience an emotion as a human. You still have a human body. This body is still an Atlantean designed, programmed body. And you have a light body. Every single one of you, I mean, everyone, we already all have the light body. You guys are aware of your light body. And you need to be just as aware of your biology, because the two will begin to interact with each other and things will come back around. Duh, right? We all know that. You think you're done with something, it comes back around. So really, you know, Adamus always says, relax into your enlightenment. That's trademarked. I could be sued for saying that. Anyhow, There's a science behind that. We talk about regulating the nervous system in the Samadhi course, right? You just go back to the zero point, right? But you can use your awareness to go back to the 0 point, but you need to feel that in the body as well. Jen, didn't you say the safest thing is to be in my body? The safest place to be is in my body. I'm reaching for my phone. So that's number one, making sure we have an activated parasympathetic nervous system. We're not in the adrenals, the fight or flight response, etc. And as you need to be aware of your biology and your light body simultaneously. You regulate the nervous system through your pure awareness, not through perspectives. In the Kihok program in the last 3 channels, Adamus has done a great job in saying all perspectives basically come from ego. They're not wrong or bad, but the perspective is just a narrow slice of this whole experience, right? So we use the awareness of the whole. Perspectives will activate the sympathetic fight or flight or fawn nervous system perspectives. In pure awareness, you're always in the parasympathetic nervous system. If you talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they will tell you science shows you cannot be relaxed and have anxiety at the same time. The anxiety and the stories that come with the anxiety and all the other stuff can only happen when your parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So that's number 1. 2, we really want to, we wrote about it in the Era of the Magus series, and it's in the recordings of the Era of the Magus series, which is up on the website. The password is lowercase rest, ampersand, the and symbol, rest and play, all lowercase, no spaces. We talk a little bit about the 4th element there. We also talk about it in the Art of Allowing and in Tales of an Aspect Integrated, all free online, right? You don't need to go back and watch those unless you want to, but really understanding the 4th element, which is Nost or knowingness. The reason Kuthumi and I want to emphasize really understanding this and exploring it, exploring the 4th element, is once you really are tapped into the 4th element, you do not have to bypass the mind to comprehend consciousness. You don't have to bypass the mind to inquire what's happening in your body of consciousness. When you understand the 4th element, you get into this space where the mind can comprehend the infinite, and it comes along for the ride. So, parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest. Understanding the 4th element. 3, we're really going to go beyond viewing consciousness from the eyes of the human. So much of the discussion in Patreon is about, for me, my human, and the observations that are shared are from the perspective of the subject I, Lauren, Bob, right? Bob comes on the call. Bob says, for me, the way I am experiencing my consciousness, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but we're really going to move the conversation into the transition. So it's not little YU talking about what's going on in big YU, right? The totality of your beingness as described from little U. we get into this in the last era of the Magus channel. Instead, we're going to become, instead of the ego becoming aware of awareness, initial realization, the human becomes aware of consciousness, of God, of pure awareness, right? Enlightenment is when awareness becomes aware of itself. Sarah and unsarah. Awareness is aware of itself, and the ego somewhere over here, a needle in the haystack of God, right? So we're really going into the you, big YU relationship, right? From the view of God also, I am experiencing God also in this way. That's how the conversation changes. Little bitty Bob talking about God consciousness. To Bob is God and unmanifested Bob is God. Big YU relationship. The yogis call this awareness being aware of itself. This is a basic yogi understanding of where you find truth, right? But in the Crimson Circle, I am remembering my Crimson Council meetings. The Crimson Council has also declared that that needs to happen for the larger audience, the Shaumbra collective consciousness, to move from human talking to soul, talking to this, talking to that, talking to this, to God and ungod, awareness being aware of itself, consciousness becoming conscious of itself, bringing the ego and the soul along as part of the soup, right? Okay. Kuthumi loves list. Parasympathetic nervous system. Understand, really diving into the fourth element, nos, knowingness. 3, relationship from big YU to big YU. Awareness being aware of itself, which will change the conversation. Are we going to get this right out of the gate? No, but I'm going to help you really reestablish that conversation if you're not doing it already, where it's not the little human you talking about consciousness, right? Switching the conversation in our calls. 4, we're going to go beyond the idea, the illusion of space. How are we going to do that? We're going to play with space, right? So if you do, like you have something come up, which happens for me every day, all day long. I was making a smoothie this morning and a piece of information came in, right? And the piece of information comes in and it feels like particles, right? How do I describe this? The information's in particles, right? And to examine this piece of information, this communication from my fourth element, nos or knowingness, I give it the illusion of space, right? So if you're doing a deep dive in yourself, you create space. Bear with me here. We're going to dive into the illusion of space so we can understand that it's an illusion. It's counterintuitive. We're learning in a different way about ourselves as God also. So something comes into your body of consciousness, into your awareness, and you zoom out and give it space. Right? So we're going to play with the space in your self-inquiry process, experience, which we're all doing all the time. Wow, what was that? I'm going to lean into that, or I'm going to back away so I can see it clear. Okay, so particles form to create a coffee cup or a pen, right? The reason you can see the edge of the coffee cup is from the illusion of space. Right? It makes it seem like there's spaces between the particles, right? There's a space between the particles of my hand and a space between the particles of the coffee cup, right? So We already understand how time works in this relative reality. Now we're going to understand how space works. So it appears that there's a space between the particles of the coffee cup and a space between my hand. However, if you really begin to feel into the concept of space, you realize that it's all just light and there's no space between the particles. Everything is simply just light and there's no space between the particles. Just introducing it. Katumi says, go over your list. All right, Mr. Katumi. So we have the parasympathetic nervous system. Understand, like really exploring. How about that? Exploring the fourth element. Moving from the little YU to big YU relationship to big U and big U relationship. And changing the conversation around it. Really start to look at space, both in your body of consciousness and the non-physical and in the physical world. So instead of trying to understand that space is an illusion, study space as if it were real. Time and space. Linear, local. We live in a local, time-based, local, space-based reality. So we're going to really dive into space. And you can especially do this when you're watching what's arising in your awareness. Give it some space. Oh, I had an energetic imprint, which is what we call memories or lifetimes. I had an energetic imprint pop up. I'm going to stretch it out and give it some space so I can see it better. For those of you who are not super intuitive or having a tough time understanding what big S self inquiry is, we'll work with that, right? Because some of you have things arise and you go, well, I can't understand that and I can't do anything with it, so I'm just going to let it be. Self-inquiry is not about, it's like the concept of ease, effort, and the middle way. Ease, do nothing. Effort, try to do it the human way. There's a middle way. Something comes up. I realize my human can't understand it, but I can use my awareness to roll it around in my body of consciousness, to play with it. Actor and observer become one. We're not just observing things anymore and going, oh, well, I can't get it, so I won't do anything about it. It's lazy. It's really, really lazy. And it's the human not wanting to see what's behind it. All right, so the Summer of Softness series is up. And you guys can go back through there if you would like. The baseline of the Summer of Softness series is really allowing, you have to go soft to allow the identity to dissolve. And really we're trying to, for those of you who might still kind of be stuck there, even though, I mean, it's like, you're not really stuck there, but there's still part of you that hangs on to this belief system of the designated ascendee last lifetime, who has to decide if it's staying on Earth or leaving. We're going to remove staying or going from our vocabulary because that's an either or. We are going to and. We are going to create potentials, possibilities, probabilities, and passageways where there's not, I'm leaving Earth or, or I'm staying. No. We're going to move beyond that duality. It has been sucked into the collective Shaumbra consciousness and chewed to bits. All right. I want to read, somebody sent me something from, someone sent me this beautiful note and says, I am discovering super subtle pieces of identity. I loved it. I felt that in my bones. I'm discovering super subtle pieces of identity. Immersing in the Summer of Softness series and able to feel the deeper layers this time. Really able to feel the deeper layers of the Summer of Softness series. She said, it's so good. Dots being joined and connected all over the place. right? So there's always more layers of this to explore. I have parts and pieces of identity pop up all the fucking time, you know? I even had, oh God, 2 weeks ago, I heard a voice that said, "You're a fraud." And I was like, I don't have time for you. I don't have time for this voice that says I'm a fraud. And I'm like, oh, am I really a fraud? I'm not playing that game. Goodbye, right? It's like, whatever. Yeah, so that Summer of Softness series is in there. There's also in the vein of this passageway softness, right? You're gonna feel into the passageway of softness, and on the call, you're gonna come present how you experienced it. I'm giving you guys about 5-6 weeks to really feel into that, right? What is softness? And what does it have to do with space? And what does it have to do with identity? Right? Another word for softness would be malleability, plasticity, flexibility, right? We could talk about it as neuroplasticity, creating new neural networks in an open loop system. We cover that in the Magi Magic event, free online, and we cover that in the Light Body Sessions. It's also in the New Human Species book. So I'm just kind of pointing you where all these things are. You don't have to do all those things. You don't have to do any of things. The only thing you have to do is really feel into softness as a passageway to exploring deeper layers of your true nature. Let me say that again. The only thing you have to do prior to coming on the call is explore the passageway of softness as it relates to opening up the door to deeper layers of your true creator nature. Explore the caverns of your beingness through the passageway of softness. Feel something come in that has a sharp edge. Go soft. Come on the call. Report back. Yes. Yeah. All right. I'm looking at the rest of mine and Katumi's notes, which were written at 3 a.m. Katumi. All right. So Katumi really says that these calls, because you're required to show up and you're going to come with your peers in consciousness, and we were able to be really selective and say no to a lot of people, right? Because we don't want to have to be pulling someone out of a self-worth pile of poo-poo, right? That's somebody else's job now. Right? So Katumi says what he hopes to see, the intention he's setting for us, and he's a facilitator and a space holder for this. He's all in. So am I. I'm all in too. I'm your biggest fucking fan that ever lived in all of creation. I am your biggest fucking fan. You guys are doing it. Katumi really hopes to see us moving from sharing on the calls from what the I identity is experiencing into what the big Y you is experiencing. So that may mean that Katumi will come in and bop you on the head with a tiny hammer, and we're not going to get it all right at first. So don't come on the call and be paralyzed because you're going to do something wrong. No, we'll help you dive deeper. Katumi will ask funny questions to get you out of your head, right? And being is that Katumi is in my ear. He told me to go over the list one more time. Going into the Rhythm of Further series, most important thing is to be at sharing and living from the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the relaxed part of yourself. Really take notes, write down when you're not in your parasympathetic and you're in that part, you know? So you can begin to understand where it's coming from, the Atlantean programming that activates it. We're just becoming aware of it. We're not bashing ourselves and we're not trying to fix it. We're just becoming aware of it. Return to self. Go back to the 0 point, not just in your body of consciousness, but in your biology. We're not getting rid of the biology. It's interacting, it's making love with your light body right now. That could be great. And that could have some side effects. Accept all as it is. Really start to explore, if you have not already. There's always another layer. It's just like that concept of sovereignty. I'm constantly learning more about what sovereignty is. We're going to explore the 4th element. If you're really connected to this 4th element, reconnected, you do not have to bypass the mind. The mind does the stretch and snap, and then it can comprehend the infinite in the 5 to Further series. Going from human to relationship to consciousness to manifest God and unmanifest God, Sarah and Unsarah. Just give that as an example. Really start to examine space. Believe it's real, right? Instead of saying, oh, space is an illusion and I need to adjust my eyes to see it that way. Really believe, go all in, right? So we're going to go into the idea of space as there's the particles that make up this coffee cup. There's a space between the coffee cup and my hand and the particles that make up my hand. The more you dive into that, the more you'll begin to see there's no space between the particles, and the particles are actually an illusion, right? But this is slowly backing away from the need to perceive. We want to do it all at once. So really just start to think about space, right? Just like you did about time. Softness is the passageway is our topic for January. Resources for that are the Summer of Softness series and the Magi Magic event, which we talk about neuroplasticity, allowing new neural networks to form. And Kutumi's pie in the sky for the Rhythm of Further is moving from sharing on the calls what the I identity is experiencing. And really, for me, self-inquiry has been self-inquiry, which is a yogi term. It has been natural and intuitive and fluid for me. Yet I'm always finding new doorways into inquiring what's happening in my God also, or just God. What's happening in God? What's happening in the awareness, in the body of consciousness? There's always another layer to uncover. Oh, I can inquire about things in this way by taking an 8-degree turn to the right. Those of you who are self-inquiring by just saying something and then go, oh, okay, I'm just going to sit with that. This is where the space comes in. It's like this event happens in the body of consciousness. It's not a physical thing, right? Something pops up, a sensation, an emotion, an energetic imprint or memory pops up, and you give it space and you sit with it. There are other ways to interact in your body of consciousness. And we're going to talk about those on the call. So just start to explore. And like when you see yourself in the pattern of, oh, I'm just going to sit with this, that's a repeating pattern for many of you. See if you can interact with it. What if you go pick it up? Like a toy in a toy box. What if you flip it upside down? What if you poke at it? What if you swallow it, right? So start to inquire in what's occurring in your body of consciousness in new and unique ways. And as you do that, new neural networks will be created. the pattern of how you've approached yourself, what worked in the past is not going to work for further, because it's a loop. It's a closed loop system. What worked for you prior to right now is you sat with it. You applied self-love to it, right? You're gonna have to find new and creative ways to interact with what's occurring in your body of consciousness if you would like a mind that can comprehend the infinite, to create neural plasticity, new networks. Open the box, and when things appear in your life, don't approach them in the same way you always have for the last 3 years. Go about it a different way. View it from the eyes of God rather than the I identity. Instead of sitting with it, swallow it. Just giving an example. You're going to find new ways to interact with yourself, and don't hesitate. You can't fuck this up. You're just exploring your true creator nature. You're exploring your true creator nature. And so you don't have to like just sit with things and then I'm uncomfortable. And it's like, I hear the same story over and over again, right? So interact with yourself in a new way, in a different way, right? Because you can't fuck it up. And if you keep doing it in the same way, you're using the same neural networks. You're repeating a pattern of how you deal with things or experience yourself, right? And you can't experience the totality of your beingness if you're just doing the same thing. Oh, I sit with it, right? How can you experience the totality of your beingness, open up the passageways into the caverns of your beingness, if you keep interacting with yourself in a patterned way, right? So you have to create it. I mean, safe space is a given, it's a guarantee at this point. But if there's a part of you that feels unsafe by approaching things in a new way, some of you are so scared, you think something pops up and you have to sit with it because you're going to scare it away, or you're going to miss an opportunity, or, you know, a crazed clown is going to pop out and scare you. I mean, come on. No, interact with yourself in a new way. I could keep going on about the patterns that I've seen with you guys over the last 3 years and how you interact with yourself. Katumi saying that you all get what I'm saying, right? How can you create new neural networks if you have a pattern? This is what's worked in the past, so I'll do it again now. Each moment that arises will ask something new of you, right? Each moment that arises in the embodied enlightenment experience will ask something new of you. Katumi says one more time, each moment in the embodied enlightenment experience will ask something new of you. So don't react and interact with yourself in the qualia-based mechanisms that you have in the past. This is how I deal with conflict. This is how I deal with an uncomfortable emotion. You guys have like a list of coping mechanisms for staying on earth after realization that you have developed. And I'm asking you to get rid of them. And Katumi's telling me that's making you, parts of you, very uncomfortable. Good. All right. So this is for January. And you'll have plenty of time. I'm recording this on, what day is it? December 15th. So you guys will have at least 5 weeks to really feel into everything I shared with you today. I'm so excited. This is like, I feel like I have been waiting my whole life to get to do this and facilitate this space and hear from you all forever. Right? And not have to deal with any of the Patreon crap or any of the self-worth issues or whatever else that we were dealing with over there. We made a quantum leap and 30 of you made it into the leap, which is wonderful. It's way more than I thought. When I first set this up, I thought maybe there'd be like 12, right? It doesn't really matter. And I'm telling everyone else, no, it feels really good right now. And I'm not going to mess up the dynamics of this. All right. So make sure you check the website for all the call information and just feel around with everything. And let Jess or myself know if you have any questions, and we'll see you on the January calls, unless you're coming to Mexico, and then I will see you in 2-3 weeks, which I'm so excited about. The weather's so nice. All right, I am in love with you. And Kachumi just says, namaste. Namaste in your parasympathetic nervous system. He says, namaste, relaxed. I'm gonna stay relaxed. Namaste, relaxed. He has not left me alone in the last week. All right.